When the House stops sitting, so does At Issue. At least we take a little summer break just like them. It's been my first At Issue season, and it's been a great one. We're going to answer some of your questions tonight, but we're also going to talk about the main topic that has dominated this place, the House of Commons, since January, even before that. That, of course, Canada-US relations and Donald Trump. Let's take a look at some of the biggest moments that have defined that relationship over the past little bit.
So I think if there is goodwill on all sides, we could have a great outcome in Montreal.
Due to the unique nature of our relationship with Canada and Mexico, we're negotiating right now NAFTA. And we're going to hold off the tariff on those two countries to see whether or not we're able to make the deal. Justin has agreed to cut all tariffs and all trade barriers between Canada and the United States. So I'm very happy about that.
So I'd say NAFTA's in good shape.
As Canadians, we're polite, we're reasonable, but we also will not be pushed around.
And by the way, Canada, they like to talk. They're our great neighbor. They fought World War II with us. We appreciate it. They fought World War I with us, and we appreciate it, but we're protecting each other. We have very good relationships with Canada. We have for a long time, and hopefully that'll work out. But Canada's not going to take advantage of the United States any longer.
Okay, so lots to talk about, and to do that, joining me in the foyer of the House of Commons, Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj. I made them come to me. Look at, you guys actually have legs and whole bodies. You're not just floating heads.
Not heads and boxes.
Okay, that was, we want to do this first chunk, because we're going to do two chunks tonight, just on that relationship, because it has evolved, deteriorated, changed 16 times, sometimes over the course of a week. Where would you say it is at right now?
Deteriorated. There was a time not so long ago when we were told that one of the big goals of Canada and the Trudeau-Trump relationship was to not be on the president's Twitter feed.
Yes.
Okay, I rest my case.
Andrew.
Yeah, it's hard to know how much of that is based on anything real and how much of that is just Trump's tantrum of the week. How much of it is part of his grander ambition of breaking apart most of the Western alliances. You get the feeling almost that we were just sort of the convenient target for, as I say, at this moment, it could be, well, it was Angela Merkel the next week, right? Yeah. But it's never good when you've got not only the president, but his minions competing to come up with the worst adjectives they can find to describe the prime minister.
What about you, Althea? Where do you think that relationship is? What defines it right now?
I don't think it can not be saved. I agree that it's deteriorated. I think the government spent a great deal of effort trying to basically suck up to Donald Trump. And that only went so far until the president's economic interests clashed against ours. And basically, we weren't ready to fold quite as quickly as Mr. Trump wanted us to. But I don't think it's not salvageable. I mean, you looked at what he tweeted about, the little rocket man, and then, he had a great summit with the North Korean dictator. Yeah. So I think there are things that will change. And obviously, July 1st and the presidential election in Mexico is a way of restarting negotiations. So as long as you just get through to July, I think.
Yeah, the NAFTA talks, as far as we know, are still on. So.
But I was struck this week when the Prime Minister did his end-of-session news conference, and he was asked, have you spoken with President Trump since the G7 and the whatever happened? And the answer was no. And that couple of weeks, that doesn't speak to a lot of bridge rebuilding yet.
Although presumably people are talking. It sounded like people behind the scenes were talking.
Yes, but I think it's unprecedented that a U.S. president takes shots directly by name at the Prime Minister of Canada.
And Brian already said that too the other day.
Even if there weren't the bad blood, it's just the unpredictability. You never know with Trump, partly because he doesn't know very much and doesn't believe very much and changes his mind 3 times a day and has a revolving door staff who are oftentimes at war with each other, oftentimes contradicting him. It must be extraordinarily frustrating for any government, including ours, to have to deal with that because you don't know who speaks for the White House or what their position will be from day to day.
Yeah, two things I want to say. I actually went back and looked at what period in time the Prime Minister and the President actually had talked. They've only really spoken or met 9 times since January, and it was always because of usually of an event, either the tariffs or the discussion around the tariffs, or the Saskatchewan bus crash, or the shooting in Florida. Yeah. So unless there's like a news event that the two can agree to meet and then talk about NAFTA or something, we haven't had that. So 2 weeks not talking is not abnormal. What is noticeable, though, is that the Prime Minister seems to be airing his frustrations with the President in a way that he has not before. And that started in early June when he talked about how basically he was given this ultimatum and he decided not to fold, and that's why he didn't go to D.C. to sign and renegotiate a NAFTA. But even in the end of sitting press conference where he said, well, you know, the President likes to be unpredictable, the frustrations that he is airing vocally, that is definitely new and noticeable.
Okay, so I only have about 2 minutes left then. What should we expect from our government in terms of how they manage that going forward? Is it more of the same? Should they be changing course? They seem to think this strategy is working. At least that's what the PM said yesterday.
Well, they're going to, I guess, as long as there are NAFTA negotiations, they're going to hope that American interests that should and will feel threatened by the threats that Trump is making against Canada start working into the system, because it's beyond our lobbying efforts at this point.
Well, and there was one good thing, I guess, with the kids that were being detained this week. We saw that the president can back down, can submit to some pressure. Maybe not entirely, but that could work.
Yeah, I think our best strategy remains play for time. Keep talking, keep smiling.
Until he leaves?
Hey?
Until he leaves?
Well, until something happens. I mean, the time is your friend. There's no sense. We have no incentive to bring things to a head. We want to keep things talking, and if it does collapse, it has to be at their instigation rather than ours. And just you know, to the extent that you can, try not to be provoked. At the same time, you know, I don't think Canadians want our leaders also to be tiptoeing around and not saying things that need to be said. But it's a question of being politic.
But if those auto sector tariffs come, isn't that not a warning shot? I mean, at that point, yeah.
That's more than a warning shot. That's the war. I mean, that's the worst.
Yeah.
But it's going to take a bit of the American auto industry down with it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it's sustainable from their perspective.
No.
Althea.
I think you got a sense of that when Peter Navarro, the trade advisor, was on Fox, and part of his tirade, he talked about how the American media should pay attention to the Canadians taking over their system, and he aired a grievance that clearly stung for the White House, which is Canada's actually been successful in talking to state governors, talking to congressmen, talking to the American media, and airing that case publicly about how this is going to cost you jobs too. And I think that message obviously is resonating, and that's the track we need to take.
Okay, we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what the next year and a bit looks like, because we are just that close to a federal election, and we're going to take some of your questions. We'll be back just right after this. Stick around.